Hey guys. Oh, phone just fell. So, thought I would hop on live, answer any questions, take you guys on a little tour. Sometimes, oh, I found my knife. So, filming obviously takes a lot longer, and editing the videos. Tomorrow I'm going to be filming a video, kind of day in the cabin life, a rustic, simple cabin life. Preparing, I think, about 5 things from the towers to put into the fridge for the week so that I am prepped in the food arena. So we have things to just grab and eat, because that is what helps me to stay on track with eating healthy. And, you know, it's the new year, so we're all doing that, right? But right now, while we're waiting for people to get on, if anybody's out there, I know everybody's a little bit tired today. New Year's, getting back into routine probably for a lot of people. But what I'm doing right now is prepping rock wool for wheatgrass. So I grow wheatgrass on the towers. I don't typically keep it in the trays. I prep the rock wool and then put it right into the Baby Greens extension kit. I'll take you guys on a walk in a little bit and show you that. And then it goes right into the tower. So it's one of the very few, there's only a few things I say start in your tower, and this is one of them, just because it grows within 6 days. I'll be harvesting this to juice. But because wheatgrass expands, I have found it's kind of wasteful to do it in a rock wool unless you take out some of the innards, and then you can double the amount of wheatgrass. Because we're gonna go through this in 6 days. I do let my wheatgrass grow back twice, so I will juice it twice, and then I have to start over and get new rock wool. So, you know, I buy the rock wool in bulk, which is about 8 cents. If you're not buying it in bulk, that's 11 cents. Now that's incredibly cheap. Let's see, you need, I would say three of these to get about a 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce shot of wheatgrass, and it's going to depend on how good your juicer is. And that at the store, it blows my mind what wheatgrass costs at Whole Foods. I can't even believe people would pay that, because you get maybe 5 shots, and it's expensive. I can't think of how much it is, but I know I've been blown away. So with wheatgrass, I just pull out the innards, so you can see that's the original hole, and this is my hole now. And let me do this other one, and then I'll show you how to put the seeds in there. So I wanted to get on the lives because I know there's questions, and it's a great place to answer questions, cover a lot of information that if I'm making just standard videos, because of YouTube being YouTube, you know, videos have to be formatted a certain way and all of that. Otherwise, the algorithm doesn't like you, and then you never get out there in front of people. So the lives I've really liked, because we can cover lots more information very quickly on a live. So I've got these now. What I did is soaked my wheatgrass. These are just wheat berries. They're a red organic hard wheat. And I normally only soak them for about a day. These have been soaking for 2 days, so they're actually starting to turn to grass. Totally fine. You can actually use the liquid to make vegan recipes. It's like a ferment. And the reason you soak wheatgrass is because it expands. And if you don't soak it, even some of these did that, it will expand so big that it'll pop out of the rock wool. So I like to use a 1/2 teaspoon, and we're just gonna fill it up. So a 1/2 teaspoon, because these have already plumped up pretty good, is all that's gonna fit. And we'll put maybe a little bit more. I'm kind of pushing it down. Depends how well you do in cutting your innards of your rock wool out. And that's it. This goes right into the tower. Now, the tower I want these to go into isn't on right now, so I'm just gonna put them in my little container here that has water in it, and they can sit there and wait. Now, if you guys have questions, let me know. Happy New Year. And I really wanted to come on to answer specific questions. I know there's a lot of questions, otherwise I'll just ramble. Let's fill up these two because I cut them out earlier. And then I will take you guys on a tour and we can chat all things Tower Gardens. So if you are new here or just happen to come across my live and don't know who I am, I'm Stephanie, and I grow about 80% of our produce on aeroponic towers. I was a gardener for 20 years. I've used many methods to grow food. And so for me to go from gardening to gardening on the towers wasn't a big deal because I understand plants. Like people ask me, can you grow this on a tower? And I can say yes or no, even if I haven't grown it, just because I understand how plants grow and I understand how the towers work. So it was an easy transition for me. I decided to go into the towers in 2021 because of food inflation and what's going on with the food and all the weird things they're putting in the food. And we live up in the mountains and the food here is not that great. And the good stores are ridiculously expensive or really far away too. The Whole Foods, I can't even believe what food costs at the Whole Foods. And it's far, it's like 45 minutes. So I got into growing this way. And the main reason is I can get away from seasonal growing. So instead of having to grow all my tomatoes and then I had the burden of having to harvest all of them and preserve them, and then the work's kind of over there, I can grow consistently small things all the time. So instead of 50 cabbage coming in at once and preserving it, I'll grow 50 cabbage over a year and have a cabbage consistently to eat. So that was the goal. They're in the garage for 4 months of the year. It's the heated garage. And then they are outside for 8 months. But moving forward, I've decided to keep a few indoors year round to fill the gaps. Because right now, I'll show you my tomato plants are doing amazing and they're growing really fast. I'll show you guys. This tower is 3 weeks old. It's incredible. But it still takes time. So I'm still like a month away, maybe even 5 weeks from being able to eat tomatoes and cucumbers. And so that's a big gap. So I really want to close that gap. And I can do that by making sure I have towers indoors and outdoors full time. I see questions. How do you companion planting on a tower when you do not have as many as you do? Okay, so companion planting, yeah. So the key to get the most out of your food, especially if you only have one tower, is to interval plant. And you have to use a formula for that. So I've developed a formula for it so that it gets you eating food fast and kind of making sure you also have some of those things like tomatoes that you want to eat. So I say to start seeds every 2 weeks. And that seems like a lot, but I'm going to show you guys in just a minute why 2 weeks is pretty much the ideal number. And start seeds every 2 weeks, and I start 1/4 the amount of grow ports hold on, I gotta drink something. I just got back from the gym. As grow ports. So if you have 28 grow ports, you're gonna be starting, what is a fourth of that? Like 7 every 2 weeks. Then out of that 7, you want 80%, so about 5 of those rock wool to be really fast turnover things, like your lettuce and your greens. And then the other 2 can be things you're interval planting and staying on top of. So if you have a tomato blooming right now and it's starting to fruit, you want to be starting a new tomato plant so that when that original tomato plant burns out, you have another one stepping in to take its place. So you're going to have to kind of stay on top of when you planted things. I created a journal. You can find this in my store for that exact reason, because I can write down when I started my tomatoes in different varieties, because different varieties matter too. Some tomatoes, a lot of the tomatoes I grow in here, and I'll make a video on that when the day comes, they're gonna ripen and then they're gonna continue to ripen in an interval process because that's the type of tomato I chose to grow. And then it's eventually gonna burn out. So you've gotta figure out that timing, and a lot of that comes with experience, but I did put in my ultimate guide some parameters around that. Like I start tomato seeds every 3 months, and that keeps me safe. Pepper seeds as well. So I put that information in my ebook as well. And that's the secret, just making sure you stay on top of your seeds starting. When we walk around, I'll show you why. Because sometimes you might have plants that are kind of small, but if you have a seedling in your tower that needs to have a home, it forces you to pull that bok choy out that might be a little bit smaller, make a meal out of it and put the new one in, and then you're eating food, and that will, especially if you can put a baby greens extension on your tower, it really speeds up the process and gets you eating a lot more food. And then companion planting, if you have one home tower, I always recommend never do more than 1/4 of it in slow foods like your tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants or cucumbers. Only 1/4, because if you go, and cabbages are slow too, you need to put the majority faster growing things and about 1/4 in the slower. Now, once the slower start to produce fruit, they continue to produce fruit, and then you interval plant. And that keeps you kind of eating off your tower in a consistent way. Let's see. My question is, once I purchase the tower, I guess it's me visualizing the next thing. Do you put the seeds and dirt, and that dirt goes into the tower and then washes away because it's all in? No, we don't use any dirt. So when we start our seeds, and I'm doing that right now, let me show you what they look like. So we start in what's called rock wool, and it's a woven lava rock. And we get it wet and we put our seeds in, and I have a whole seed starting video, and I'm actually creating a course. It's just a getting started guide course that's pretty in-depth, and it's gonna get people growing food really fast. If you're a customer, you'll have access to it for free. If you're not, or you had a tower from somewhere else, the cost will be pretty low. It's just to help launch you into growing food and staying on top of your seed starting, so you can get that habit down. Because once we get that down, then the next step of doing more advanced foods gets easier. So we're gonna start in these rock wool, and then we put these right into our tower. And I'll show you what that looks like when we go walking. And that's it. So we start our plants when they get to a certain criteria, which I've got some videos on that, when they're ready to go in, then you just slide them in. There's water and minerals in the tank, and as the tank runs out, you have to add more water, and every time you add more water, you add more minerals. I like to do that when I'm growing indoors, when the tank gets half full. When it's outside, the water can drain in like 5 days in the peak if I'm growing tomatoes and peppers and all those things are ripe, so I just kind of let it run out, and then not completely out, but let it run really low and start over. But indoors, I have found when you get to about the halfway mark, it's a good time to fill it up, and it makes it easier to balance the minerals. Okay, so let's take a little walk around, and we'll just kind of chat, and then maybe more questions will come up. So this tower, I'm gonna flip you guys around. Okay, so these are the home towers. The home tower is 13 gallons and is on wheels. So I'm about to set this one up. This is where my wheatgrass is going. This one's been going for 3 weeks. So some of this was growing outside. Some of it's been in here for 3 weeks. So lots of growth. These are the baby greens section. And in here I have arugula. I densely plant baby greens. I've got some Salanova lettuce, parsley, baby greens, so many things. These are chives that I've cut. These are beets. This is stinging nettle, which is a superfood. Check these out. These are so cute. Where are they? Radish. So you can grow your radish on your tower. This is a nice one. That's an English radish. They do amazing. It's gonna get dark on the other side, but it kind of repeats. We've got mustards and kales and greens and all the things. And this tower has a baby greens extension kit on it. So if you have a home unit, they are only this high. It's hard to see that, about that high. I've added an extension kit. It does make it a little wobbly, and some people say don't do it because it's a little wobbly. It's not gonna fall over. It's just, I mean, you can see that's as wobbly as it is. I think everyone should have an extension, because if we're gonna grow food, we're using the same amount of water, nutrients, all of that's gonna be minimal. And we're already running these on power, so why not grow more food, is my opinion. So over here, I'm gonna kick these lights off. So the lights are on a timer. Oh no, maybe I won't, you guys can see. up here, and you just set the timer. I keep mine on about 18 hours, and you can determine when you want it to come on and off. Mine, I just have it, it doesn't really matter because sometimes when I'm in here, I have to kick it off to video, but I just set it for 18 hours. I find that's pretty good. Here we have a purple Merlot cabbage. This is a Napa cabbage, doing amazing. And this right here is stinging nettle, and I'm letting it go to flower. So it's producing its flowers, and it's because stinging nettle seeds are a little difficult to get. So it's great if you want to grow your own seeds. There is a trick. When you start to let a plant go to seed, this is all stinging nettle over here. I'm going to harvest that for a meal tonight, actually, when I go in. But plants, I'm going to flip this around. Plants get really big when they go to seed. A kale plant can get like half the size of your tower when it's going to seed, and it's really messy and it's really hard to manage. We don't want to let that happen on a tower. But if you do want to get some seeds, I've let a few things like dill, I'm letting my stinging nettle. If you need seeds, because they're a little bit difficult to find, or you just want seeds like cilantro, you can let it go to seed. It doesn't take up as much space, but you want to trim them back. And so you're going to choose like 2 leads. I call these leads, flowers. And these are going to be allowed to turn into flowers and then go to seed. The rest of the plant, I'm just going to keep harvesting it and cutting it back. And that way, this is going to get bigger and messier and larger, but it's not going to take over my tower and be like so cumbersome. So that's the trick if you want to grow your own seeds. Only let a couple of these. If I were to wait, this one will go to flower, and this one, and this one, and before you know it, half this tower will be stinging nettle seeds. Right here's arugula. Look at this. So gorgeous. It cost me about 20 cents to grow this arugula. It's about half of one of those plastic containers you buy at the grocery store. That's kind of expensive, especially if you buy organic. It's a really great deal. This tower is 3 weeks old. I'm going to kick some of these lights off. Hold on. So if you want to kick your lights off, you just turn the knob. There we go. Okay, this tower is 3 weeks old. It's taken off. This tower is things that were outside that I transitioned inside, except for the squash, and it's stunted. When we transition our plants or we cut them too much, that's what happens. So if you've got a situation where things are just not growing, it's probably because you harvested off of the thing too much and it stunted it, and it's time to start new plants. So I have found it better, that's why I'm going to grow inside year round, because this is so incredible and is growing so fast compared to the things I tried to bring inside from outside. So down here, this is a mustard, and this goes into that question of interval planting. So let's assume this is the one tower you have. This has 28 grow ports. So I've got an extension kit on it. And it's mostly tomatoes, but in between the tomatoes, I wanted to grow things that were going to grow really quickly to give me food and put food on the table. And also things that are hardy that I can eat off of consistently for a long time, that can tolerate being in between and like crowded as the tomatoes get bigger. So lettuce doesn't like to be crowded, but this mustard doesn't mind, and it's not going to be crowded because this is a fast-growing variety. It's already trying to go to flower here, and you can eat the flowers. A lot of people grow this variety just to eat the flowers, like a broccolini. I grew this one because I just wanted to have access to fast food really quick, because I knew tomatoes are going to take a while. So I can harvest this anytime. I'll probably harvest it tomorrow and then replace it with another start. This is purple cabbage, and when you grow cabbage indoors, it's not going to form that dense cabbage head that we get at the grocery store. You can get those outside, but indoors, it's just not the right climate for them, and cabbage can be really slow. So it's important to choose a variety that has, we call them early, middle, or late season. Early season means it's going to mature faster in like 65 days. A late season cabbage can take over 100 days. So if your cabbage is growing really slowly, it could be that you planted a long season one and it's just taking a really long time. But what I do is plant 4 to 6 seeds. I think I have 4 in this one. And this gives me a bouquet of cabbage. And I can start to eat off of these right now as baby greens, a little. Never take more than a third of your plant or you'll stress it out. And it's going to continue to grow and get bigger and grow and get bigger. And as this tomato grows and gets bigger, this will grow and get bigger. And they don't compete. They can both handle that like size. Like this isn't going to care if the tomato shades it out a little bit. It'll just grow towards the lights. Cabbage is pretty durable like that. And then you eat these just like you would the ball of cabbage. So if I want to make coleslaw, I just take a bunch of leaves, roll them up, and julienne slice them and make cabbage. So we eat it the same way. The nutrients are the same. Nutrients are better than the grocery store. It just grows a little different. It's just a trick so you can actually get a lot of cabbage off of a tower. Down here, I have my Tom Thumb peas. You don't want to grow traditional peas indoors. They would take over. They don't produce well. This one is a Tom Thumb. It's going to produce, it's a prolific producer. But again, it's a small plant. So if you want to be able to snack on peas a few times a week, you need to plant more than one. So I think I put 8 in this tower. They're going to continue to produce and grow and produce. Eventually they burn out. But this is going to be a food that kind of gives me interval harvests, just like the tomatoes. Over here, so this is an endive. I will harvest this within a month, probably a little bit sooner. It'll be ready. Maybe, how old is it? I said 3 weeks. This one will probably be ready in like 3 weeks. I'll take the whole thing out, which gives me another grow port, and I will replace this with something that grows fast. This will be a fast growing grow port since I have slow things in other places. Parsley. Parsley you're going to harvest off of as you need it. And eventually I like to harvest the whole thing and start over. These are my tomatoes. They're blooming, so we want to pollinate them. This is how you pollinate them. Shake your plants. That's it. Here's some more of those peas, and you can see the peas are coming in. Just getting to the harvest phase. And you can see I harvested 3 off of here. And I would say, like in their peak, you can probably get, I have 2 plants per rock wool. I can probably get about 5 to 7 peas per day per plant. Not every single day because they need time to rebloom. So I can get maybe 7 peas off of that, and then I'll have another one, and this one will take a few days to grow new peas. So that's the other reason I've created that journal, so you can kind of take note of that. So if you want peas several times a week, you can do the math, do pea math, and figure out how many you need to plant. This is a curly kale. I just broke this leaf. It's a frizzle kale. It's so cool. I absolutely love this plant. I'll be able to eat off of this for a while. It's not going to mind being crowded out by tomatoes as they get bigger. Eventually, I will pull this whole thing out and start over. I would say this is a mid growing, I don't know how to say that. Like some things are really fast turnover. I said this is a fast turnover. This is like a middle turnover. This kale is a red Russian kale. Same thing. It's going to stay in here for probably 2 months, maybe even a little longer than that before I replace the whole thing. More kale down here. Those are kohlrabi. I'll show you those on the other side. But all of these are micro dwarf tomatoes. And a micro dwarf tomato, some of them are called hanging basket varieties. You can see how they hang and dangle. They are not going to get super massive. They are small varieties that are going to do a ton of fruit. Look at all this fruit. And after you harvest this, it's going to tell the plant, okay, let's produce more. So this is going to come in next. And then these. So they're going to interval on their own. They're going to kind of set up fruit for you. So those are really great to have that way because it just makes growing indoors, you get more food. See all these blooms? These are all different varieties, but they're all dwarfs. Micro dwarfs, hanging basket varieties, container varieties. This one, you can tell the difference here. This is like a hanging basket dangly one. This is going to be more of like a beef steak. It's not going to be huge like a beef steak, but this is a more traditional. This is not a cherry tomato. I don't remember what variety it is, but I can just tell by looking at it. So over here, more peas, more endive. You can kind of see the theme I'm going with. fast turnover greens combined with things that are going to give me food for a little while and then need to be turned over. These are so cute. This is kohlrabi. Kohlrabi is a cabbage. It's in the brassica family. They do great on the towers. The greens are edible and really, really tasty. And then they make these little like apple-sized balls that taste like cabbage. I think they're a cross between a turnip and a cabbage, in my opinion. That's what they taste like. And they do great. They grow really quickly. I mean, 3 weeks. That's incredible. More peas, tomatoes. I'm going to check for questions. Let's see. To have the towers inside the home, does it sound like a fountain is running 24/7, or does the water shut on and off? That's a great question. It's on 15 minutes, off 40 minutes, and it does sound like a water fountain. I actually like it, but if you don't like that noise, just know you get a 40-minute break. Now, sometimes they can, if you hear mine kick on and it's vibrating a little bit, you can prevent that where you just hear the fountain by attaching the little suction cup feet to your pumps. I just don't do it because I had them inside and outside and I just didn't stick the feet in. I probably will now that it's indoors. What types of tomatoes do you grow in your towers? I'll go through that in a minute because I have quite a few varieties and I need to read the list. Are they as tasty as grown in the field? Yeah, I have grown for years and years and years in soil, permaculture techniques, all the techniques. I don't notice a difference in the taste. To me, the taste is super, like celery. It is super rich and amazing. Nothing like the grocery store. They actually, so we feed, there was some studies done to see if the nutrient content in food grown this way was higher. And with a lot of things, especially basil and some of the herbs, it had, I forget which compound in it, higher amounts of, I forget what it was. And that is going to give it more potent, rich flavors. Jersey, don't mind I don't mind the sound either. I'm new to all of this, but I've been following your videos for some time and interested in knowing more. Thanks for the information. I would like to know how to get a tower in Africa. So in Africa, there's lots of towers going in. And thanks for watching my channel. I appreciate that. You just have to do it through a farm. You have to order a farm kit, which is a minimum of 10. So what some people do, and if you go, I'll put a link below in the comments, or if you go to my main profile page or any of the descriptions of my other videos, there's a link to my store and then there's a contact sheet in there and we can talk. But you have to either partner with some of your neighbors and friends and go in together and get 10 towers, or set up a 10-tower farm. Now you can do a 100-tower farm too. There's no limit on how many. But the only way to get them over there at this point is through our farm connection side of the tower company. And so that's what people have been doing. They've just been finding a friend and making it happen that way. So definitely shoot me an email if you want to talk more about that. We can come up with some ideas. All right, so over here, I mentioned some of these plants don't look great because they were outside. This is a zucchini. These look amazing. When you grow zucchini indoors, I just keep them really pruned. So a lot of these big leaves tomorrow I'll cut. This is a cucumber, absolutely gorgeous. Rosemary. Rosemary's very happy to be inside. It was too cold outside. This is lavender and it's starting to bloom, which is great because we want the lavender flowers. These are some green beans. They're okay. They were outside. They got in the cold and got all damaged. I really should start over. I just haven't had time. Up here is aloe. Now, eventually, I will break these aloe and allow each individual plant its own grow port. I use aloe a lot for juice. It's very, very medicinal, superfood. They just were outside and got really cold and really unhappy. So I'm letting them recover together in a nursery, which is a trick. You can put some of your plants and allow them to grow for a while and then separate them later. This is a pepper plant, a baby. Here is a pepper that I got fruit off of, oh, excuse me, all summer. And then I cut it back and look at that. It's reproducing inside. I forget what it was called. It was really great. I made some hot sauce out of it with some wild berries. Really, really tasty, kind of pineapple-ish. This is a Napa cabbage, some eggplant. That was outside, so it's looking a little rough. No big deal. More aloe. Over in this tower, so this is a Flex tower. The Flex have 20-gallon tanks. And on this one, I added a Baby Greens extension kit. And this is a great way to get a lot more produce off of a tower because we go from, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, it'd be 16 spots to 32 spots. I don't remember. This tower has like 64 grow spots on it. It's a lot. And in here, you can see how large I can let some of this food get. This is Chijimusai Bok Choy. And there's still room for this to get bigger in this little Baby Greens extension kit. So if you need more food, if you feel like you're not getting enough food off your tower, adding the extension kit, the Baby Greens one specifically, is a great secret. Here is a beet. Look at how gorgeous that is. This is a green called Mabuna. It's a Japanese green superfood. I use it as a spinach replacement. Grows really well. It'll get really big, but I eat it as babies. And there's just so much abundance in here. We've got Swiss chards and lettuce and Mabunas. Look at this. Parsley. Incredible. This is growing out of a Baby Greens extension kit. This would be in our area. This much parsley organic would cost me over $8. It's ridiculous with the food cost. And purple mustards. We've got some more baby kohlrabi here. And here's an example of plants in what I call the nursery. These are celery, and there's 5 plants all bunched up together. We don't want to let them grow this way indefinitely because they won't get those thick stalks. They'll just kind of stay like this. And I like real celery. So what I do is I allow them to get to about that size, and then I will take the rock wool out and carefully separate them individually and then put each individual one into a new rock wool. You just cut open a rock wool and then enclose it around the roots. And then each one will get its own grow port, and they turn into amazing grocery store type celery. That way you can get those long, what do you call them, stalks? And the thick stalks, and celery grown on a tower is incredibly tasty. Has so much flavor, nothing like the grocery store. And this is just a trick because celery grows really slow. And we don't want to we don't want to take 8. This is how many? 5? I have a lot of celery. I'm trying to do a whole tower of them. But I don't want to have like 8 grow ports when they're this big. If I can do a lot of that growing in one grow port and then move them. When I move them, they will go into a state of timeout. And they take I would say about 8 days to recover, and then they take off and grow really quickly to maturity. So what else is over here? So these are some babies that are ready to go into a tower. So how do I know? I do not put things in when they're super small. You can get so much growth accomplished in a grow station. I'll take you guys over to my grow station next, and allow a lot of that time-consuming phase of your food to happen over there, which will also help your turnover and how much you can eat off your tower happen. If this is sitting in the grow station for 4 weeks, I think this is celery too. I'd have to taste it to tell. Sometimes celery looks like parsley when it's a baby, and I'm pretty sure this is celery. So you can see I have lots of little ones in there. I can get weeks. Celery's slow to grow. I can get like 6 weeks of growth in the baby green in the nursery, like under a little grow light. And in that 6 weeks, I could harvest easily 2 rounds of arugula, baby greens, or lettuce, baby greens, and other things. So that is another trick, starting your seeds all the time, every 2 weeks, and then letting them get pretty big before they go into the tower. This is fennel bulb, and you can see it's already has some really good size to it, and it's perfectly happy. So I'm feeding these nutrient water, and let me walk you over to my grow station. When they first sprout, Okay, so this is the Germinator from Tower Garden. It's the one I recommend now. In the past, I was recommending these Fairy Morse, which are great lights. The reason I'm switching to the Tower Garden one is the Fairy Morse are hard to find. They're a T5 bulb that will burn out and need replacement. And the world is shifting to LED, so I'm concerned at some point you won't be able to get the bulbs for these. And price point, you need 2 of these, where I can get away with 1 of these. So cost is about the same. This is probably going to be a little bit longer lasting. So all we need is the light and the heat mat. And when I start the seeds, like I mentioned before, we get them in our rock wool that's wet. We put our seeds in there, we put our dome on, and when they germinate, we take the lid off. I have a few that haven't germinated in here. These are celery. This is a pink celery, Chinese celery, and this is standard. And so I'm giving it another day or 2. And all I'm gonna give these at this stage is regular water. That's clean filtered water. You don't wanna use chlorinated water when you're starting seeds. And then after, these are all my pepper plants. After they germinate, I'm gonna take off the lid. And when they're super tiny, like just getting started like this, I'm still just gonna give them water. These are the germination leaves. So all they're gonna get is just clean water. Even my little peppers right here, because they're so small. After they get their true leaves, which is what these are starting to get the true leaf. So here's the sprout leaf. It's the little heart. Oops, sorry, I'm too close. These are all turnips. These are purple turnips, yellow turnips, and pink turnips. And this right here is a true leaf. I can tell it's a turnip because of this leaf right here. It's fuzzy. It's a turnip leaf. So now I can start to feed this nutrient water. So I just pull, when you get your tower, it gives you these little cups. I pull water right out of one of my tanks and I water the sides. You don't want to water through the top. I've like drowned plants where they pop out of their grow port that way. So I just add the water to the sides. I don't want these sitting in water. So you can tell there's no dripping. I watered these earlier today, so they may have a little dripping. There's a little bit of water in the base, but they're not sitting in inches of water. I'm just keeping them nice and wet, and then they stay under the light on the heat mat until my criteria is when the plant has roots on all 5 sides and is a pretty decent size. If you wait for it to have roots on all 5 sides, let me see if I can find one over here. It will be pretty large already anyway. Basil's the only one I say wait a little bit longer than that, because basil, I have some videos on that if you want more specifics on basil. So this is beets. I like to plant my beets 3 to 5 per rock wool. This has roots on 1, 2, 3, almost 5 sides. So that's a pretty big plant already, and I still don't have roots on all 5 sides. Now I could put this in my tower, and I will, because that's a good sized plant. But that's what we're going for, because if we put them in too early, they get too much water and can drown, and it just takes up time. If you put a plant in really early, and I've seen this a lot, people say, why aren't they growing? They go through a state of shock, and you'll have a couple of weeks where it does nothing. I actually have a video on this if you want to go back a few months. I did it with a couple of lettuce. One was too early to go in. One was the right age, and the one that was the right age doubled in size in a week, and the one that wasn't did nothing for almost 2 weeks and then start to grow. So it sets us up to having this delayed period where there's no food on our tower, and we want food fast. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know the goal is food, lots of it, and how to get it to grow quick, like how to max these things out to their greatest potential. I'm gonna see if there's any questions. Hold on, I'm gonna scroll all the way down. I don't grow microgreens in the tower. The reason, they don't do well. Microgreens, and it's not worth the space. I do those in trays on my grow lights, and it's super easy to do them that way, and you'll just get so much more microgreens that way. I tried a bunch of different ways. It just doesn't give you enough of them. How many towers do you have? I have 9 towers total. I'm gonna grow 8 of them this winter in the garage. My goal is 15. We're a family of 5. 2 of us are very heavily plant-based. I mostly only eat plants. And so I'm using these as a homestead tool to grow most of our food, like over 80% is the goal. So the reason I have so many is because like in the summer, 1 tower will be devoted to growing all our stinging nettle for the year and it'll take about 4 months for that to happen because we go through a lot of stinging nettle as tea and it's expensive to buy. And I can grow all of that and then set that tower aside for something else. You can do that with chamomile. So I'm growing our own like cannellini beans and edamame and black beans. I'm gonna try garbanzo beans. So I have way more than most people want, but I'm also trying to grow all of those foods. So it's a whole, it's just, it requires a lot more if you wanna do that. If you wanna grow a decent amount of food, I think the best value in Tower Garden is to get the family kit, which is I think it's called the family kit, family home garden or something. You can see the links in my profile and in the descriptions of my videos. It's 3 flex towers that come with extensions and you get a discount because you buy them together. That's a good option because you can designate one and change one of the extensions to a baby greens extension to like your herbs and your greens. And then that gives you 2 other towers. So one can be 28 plants, 28 tomato plants, pepper plants, eggplants, squash, cucumber. It just gives you a lot more food. That's a 3 is a good starting to replace the grocery store, especially if you're following my interval planting method. I have a lot, but we're really pushing the limits over it. Yeah, my Gmail is STEFFMOR8. So the number 8 at gmail.com. Let's see. Who do you recommend to source out the seeds, and do the seeds have to be bought in like a big bag, or can you get smaller quantities to try different varieties of plants? Yes. So seeds, hold on one second. And I wanted to not forget the tomato question because I know that's a good question and I get that one a lot. My seeds are kind of a mess. I'm going through, when I was a soil gardener, you go through a tremendous amount of seeds because there's loss. A lot of times you're broadcasting seeds into the garden and birds and pill bugs and things are eating them. So it takes a lot more seeds. In this situation, we don't go through them as fast. So if you want to grow a lot of variety of food, it is important that you store your seeds properly because you're not going to be using as many as you would if you're growing in the soil. And so, hold on, let me just have 1 second here. The seeds are a hot mess. So I have a few sources that I like seeds from. And I just realized I have not updated that in my storefront, but I will this week. I'm actually gonna create a seed guide because some of them offer discounts too. If I'm going to do dwarf tomatoes, a dwarf tomato is a plant that will be about 4 feet. That's a big plant. I don't typically do those inside. I only have one inside, and it's to video to show the difference for people who are growing indoors. I like to do the small tomatoes indoors. It makes more sense to me. It's easier to manage. My whole thing is fast turnover, maximize these out, and keep it super simple. Big plants make big mess. So if you want dwarfs, Victory Seeds, and Tower Garden actually partnered with Victory Seed, which I thought was really great. I think they're an amazing company. They have what's called the Dwarf Tomato Project link, and you can go through all their dwarf varieties. But they send their seeds in these Mylar bags that have a zipper top. This is important because this is going to keep moisture out. So these seeds are likely going to last a lot longer than something like this. This can go bad because it can get moisture in it. So if you want to keep your seeds longer, you can buy little Mylars, and you don't have to buy them per package. You could buy one Mylar bag and put all your seeds in it, and then store it in the fridge or in a cool place. I don't like them in the fridge because I feel like there's moisture in the fridge, but if that's your only cool place, like if you're in a really hot zone, I can put them in our basement and they're fine. Even in here, because I have a heater, if I keep them low, the concrete's so cold, it's fine. So that's my trick. I don't know anyone who sells smaller quantities. Usually it's about 20 seeds, which is a lot of tomato seeds. So maybe we need to have a tomato, like a seed swap group or something. These are from Park Seed. Park Seed is a great company. I have a whole video too where I talked a lot. I went through all the catalogs and talked how to choose varieties for your tower garden if you want to branch out just from the stuff I recommend, like how do you choose plants that are going to be a good fit. And that may be a good one because I talk a lot about these companies. But this is from Park Seed Company. This is 50 Radicchino seeds. And it's in a Mylar bag. Now they don't have the zipper, so I just fold these over. But these will store way longer than the paper seeds. So I also love, probably my favorite company to buy from is rareseeds.com. They specialize in heirloom seeds. I also talked in that video, it's kind of a long conversation for a live, but the difference between GMO, non-GMO, organic, and things like that. Heirloom, you're safe. You're not going to have to worry about any of those things. They have such cool food. And then look at this picture. I buy them because it's so, I don't know. I get excited starting seeds, and there's like so much hope and mouthwater and goodness when you see something like that. So rareseeds.com has amazing selection. Now, let's see how many seeds are in here. I have no idea how many seeds are in here. Looks like 200. No, there wouldn't be that many. That would be a lot. But this, I'll go through bok choy. Bok choy goes really fast. And so you can use up a whole package of bok choy in a year. So you don't have to worry about it. But you could put these in a larger Mylar envelope and store them that way. For tomato seeds, I get them from Totally Tomato. I think their packaging is the worst out of all of the options. But their seed varieties for tomatoes are so good. And this is a Ruby Crush hybrid. You can get their catalog and it really breaks down. I wish I had them in here. I might have them somewhere. It'll tell you like what the characters of that plant are and how big it's gonna get and how much fruit it's gonna produce. That's important when you're growing on a tower so that you know, we kind of want to max these out. We want to pick the cherry tomato that's going to continue to bloom for 3 months versus the beefsteak that's going to give you 6 mediocre tomatoes and take the same amount of time. That's what I want anyway, because we want more food and I can live without a beefsteak. Tomato, I just want to have variety in our diets. So they have amazing varieties at Totally Tomato. The only thing with Totally Tomato is they don't call them micro dwarfs. They call them hanging basket varieties, and I think patio or container varieties. So a lot of people will go over there looking for a micro dwarf and have that problem. So if you do a little digging and read up on the varieties, they've got some really cool ones. The ones I planted are a Husky Cherry Red Tomato, Geranium Kiss. It'll be ready in 65 days. It's a dwarf determinant. And I was just seeing if it said how much fruit. That's the other thing too. So a cucumber, a standard, it says how much fruit on the website and in the catalog. A cucumber, when you grow a cucumber in the garden, like a standard cucumber, you're gonna get a plant, it's gonna get pretty big, it's gonna start to produce flowers, then it's gonna grow more vines, more flowers, more vines, more flowers. Some of the old ones die off. That's a whole different process. We cannot do that indoors without creating a gigantic mess that's really not gonna give us a lot of food. So I grow container varieties. Inside, you can find them at Park Seed Company. I think Totally Tomato has some. You can find them if you dig around. Just look for patio variety cucumbers or container varieties. And it'll tell you on there, these produce 20 low seed, whatever the description is of the fruit, but it'll tell you it's gonna produce like 20 fruit, and then the plant is done. So when you have plants like that, they're going to start vining and growing and producing flowers, and you'll need to pollinate them by hand. So I just do that with a little paintbrush, and you can tell the difference between the male and the female flowers. The female flowers have the fruit. And then once it starts to put energy into that fruit, the leaves are gonna get a little blah looking and start to die off, that is totally normal. That is the plant putting all its energy into its fruit. It's going to make those fruit and then it's done. So we need to start those seeds on an interval process as well, because it's not going to continue to fruit over and over and over again. And I'll get that question a lot, or I'll see that on forums, like, what's wrong with my cucumber plant? It's just old, just putting its energy into making fruit. I did Little Birdie, Red Robin, Heartbreakers. The Heartbreakers collection is a variety of tomatoes. They kind of have these heart-shaped tomatoes. They are really, really prolific. They're in the hanging basket family, I believe, and they produce these little clusters, and you eat the clusters, and then it'll tell the plant to produce more and more and more. So these are really great. Love these. Gold Nugget, that's a yellow tomato. Patio Choice Red Hybrid. Fantastico Hybrid. Early Resilience Hybrid. And this is Aroma, the Early Resilience. So it's important to look at the days of maturity. So these little hanging basket varieties are 50 to 60 days to maturity when you're going to start to be able to get fruit, where the Early Resilience Hybrid is 115 days to get Aroma tomato. So those are things to look for too. We want to choose those shorter cycle foods so we can get food faster. Now I have a lot of towers, so I can play around with that a little bit. Tumbler Hybrid, Tumbling Tom Yellow. Other companies I get seeds from are M.I. Gardner. His are very affordable. My Health Forward, and I have links to all these in some of my other videos. And I'm trying, and I also get seeds. This is kind of important. When I'm planting out, let me grab it. Baby greens. Most of the time indoors, you're gonna see me growing my lettuce like this. And the reason is this is fast and easy and the turnover's quick. When you grow a head of lettuce, it can take a significant amount of time. Romaine lettuce can take up to 90 days, depending on the variety. A small Roma, like a mini Roma is what I think they're called, can take 45 days. That's still a long time. These can take 3 weeks by the time I put them into the tower to be mature. So I like to do this most of the time. Now I still love a head of lettuce and you'll find them on the towers, but if you have one tower and you're trying to max out what you're eating off of it, this is the way to go. And you do this by buying sprouting seeds. Sprouting seeds are just seeds, but these are the seeds for, like someone asked if we can grow microgreens. If you wanted to grow microgreens, you're buying your seeds like this in bulk because you're planting so many of them. It's ridiculous how less expensive it is to buy seeds this way. So this was 4 ounces. I think I paid $15 for it. This, I don't know if you guys can see that. This is like thousands. I can't even imagine how many seeds are in here. It's filled to the brim. A normal package of lettuce, you might get 100 seeds. This is thousands, and this is almost $5. So if you want to plant baby greens, this is the way to do it. I get these from True Leaf Market, and this is a Grand Rapid leaf lettuce. And the way you plant these, we'll just do one right now. It's a little bit different. You typically want to soak your rock wool for 20 minutes, but I'm gonna cheat and just do it for 5 seconds here, which is totally fine. All right, and I'm going to, now you wouldn't want to buy seeds like this for something that you're not going to heavily plant because the seeds are going to go bad. Also, pelleted seeds are a seed that are covered in clay. It makes it easier for market farmers to see when they're planting and just have a little bit more control. They go bad in a year. They are the seeds that will spoil the quickest. So if you ever buy pelleted seeds, just know that they aren't going to be good past a year typically. So we're going to take our moist rock wool. You want to have dry fingers. And I'm going to take a hefty pinch of this lettuce. Well, these are black, so it'll be easier to see. It's a big pinch. I've counted them once. It was almost 50 seeds. And I'm going to fill up the bottom layer of my rock wool here, and it's going to spill on the top, and that's totally fine. That just is more greens. And then I'm going to cover this with vermiculite. and put it on the grow station like I do all the other ones. That's how I seed these, and when it sprouts, you're gonna get this abundance right here. So this is a lot of food. It's gonna grow really quickly, taste amazing. You might wanna play with different varieties. Some people like crispier lettuce. If you like really crispy lettuce, you just need to know when you're going to buy your seeds, the textures and things that you're going for so that you get the right ones. I usually do, this is the Grand Rapids, so this is all greens, but I usually do the mix where it's got like reds in it and it's a combination. It's called the gourmet lettuce mix or something at True Leaf. There's only a couple options, so you can see those. But that's how you grow a lot more greens. Ooh. Let me see if I missed anything. How do you companion plant? Sorry, you guys have to stare at my face while I read here. Recommend back quantity of seeds. Can you prepare plants for the tower without grow lights and heat mat? Like, can you use just sunlight? No. I highly recommend plugging in the lights. Those LED lights take very little power. I mean, you could, I don't want to say no because it depends on your climate. It's going to make it significantly harder with a higher fail rate. Unless, I take that back, unless you're in an area where you could do like a makeshift. What we're trying to do with the heat mat and the lights and the dome is make a mini greenhouse. So you could set up a mini greenhouse and grow them outside if your temperatures are okay with that. So you could do a bigger tray and put the small trays on the bigger tray and then put a dome over, put the little domes on, but then put a dome over the whole thing and put it in the sun. And that would work. Or they make those little like plastic pop-up. Any way you could create a greenhouse, you could build a little tiny greenhouse from scratch. We don't need much room to start a lot of food with these, but we need that greenhouse effect. So if your climate is one where you can create that outside, that would totally work. I instantly say no because a lot of people try to do it on their windowsills indoors. That doesn't work. Sorry, I'm trying to read Gmail. Did the seeds come with the towers? Yep. I'm going to drop my phone. There are seed packets that come with the towers. It's a gourmet lettuce blend, basil, Swiss chard, arugula. I think that might be it. There might be one more. I can't think. Oh yeah, another lettuce, like a leaf lettuce or a butter lettuce. I think it's a butter lettuce. So they do, and they give you a tray. I think the tray's terrible, sorry. I really think investing in the grow station, if you're gonna be doing it indoors, and then invest in these trays or something similar, sets you up for the greatest success. I have links to these in my shop. They're, I think 10 of them is $12 or something in the States. How long have I been doing this? I've been a gardener for 20 years. So I was saying earlier that I understand plants and gardening. So to transition from that to the towers was really easy because I already understand the plants and how they grow and what they need. So that was just an easy transition for me. But I had a tower back in 2016. We sold everything we owned in 2018 and traveled in our camper for a while. And so I've been back at gardening this way since 2021. We had lettuce in our household, tried to grow this summer, no luck. Yeah, you really have to have the right system. Because I'm a content creator, I get sent a lot of the other little like tabletop grow ones too. And they will grow lettuce, but it bolts really quickly. It's one thing I like about the towers. These are set up to farm. Like people actually make a living farming with these. They're set up to grow food. You're not limited. It's not going, the lights aren't set in a way that's gonna force the plants to go to seed really early. It's just that they work. They're amazing if you want greens. Okay, I'm gonna take a drink. This is grapefruit juice. Beet leaves. It looks terrible. My kids said it smells terrible. Greens from the tower. I think it tastes amazing. I don't mind the smell, but in the car they were like, what is that? I think it's the grapefruit, like the bitter with all the greens. It isn't working for them. If you juice, the tower is, like people who juice that see the towers, it's a no-brainer because to buy greens to juice, so expensive. and constant. You always have to be buying more, especially like celery too, if you juice celery. And then you're dealing with all the things that can be on the food, and the food's old. Here, I mean, look at the greens. It's so abundant. So they're great for juicing. And if you have a tower and you don't juice, I highly recommend trying that too, because so much nutrients, so many nutrients in here, which is great. All right, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I'm gonna hop off here in a second and go eat dinner. Let's see. If you had to do it over again, would you opt for buying just the Flex Towers or stick with the home? I'm sorry. Okay. If you had to do it over again, would you, I started thinking about the answer before I finished reading the sentence. Opt for buying just the Flex Towers, or would you still do a mixture between the home and the Flex Towers? I don't know. That one's hard to answer. If you're going to grow, if your goal is to grow greens and herbs indoors, the home tower is easier to manage, for sure. So I think it just depends on the goal. I started with a home tower that I planned on growing indoors full time so that we could have lettuce during those hot summer months, and cilantro was a big one for our family. I don't like to be without cilantro, and you can't grow it in the summer here. So my thoughts were the home tower would grow all those winter cold things all the time indoors. And then the Flex, I had the family pack, would grow all of our like larger produce outside. I think that's a great combination. If I had to choose one, the Flex you can grow bigger things on. So there's that. Like if you want, I can do a whole tower. There's 12 tomatoes on that Flex I showed you guys, 8 peas. How many plants is that? 12, 30, 40, 20, and then 8 kales and greens. So that's a lot of food and bigger food. So I don't know. I think they're both great. You get bigger food off the Flex, and the home is easier to manage in the home. Oh, thank you. My skin is beautiful. Thank you. I tried to do a very high nutrient diet. I healed my body through diet and nutrition about 10 years ago. So I'm a big fan of staying on that path, especially as we get older, right? Cheers. My husband's on here. Hi. I plan to do the family, but since these will go in the basement for the New England winters, I have the room for the Flex. I was just curious. Yeah, I would do the Flex. If you're going to do the family, for sure. It's the best value. And the only thing I would say is little that you could do. The reason I like the home over the Flex, like the one thing it has, is because I can add that baby greens extension, and it comes with 2 layers of baby greens. So you get a lot of greens, and I use a lot of greens. So a trick when you order your home unit, if you want to have a section where you can get more greens, just trade out. It's going to come with a regular extension kit, but you can order a baby greens extension kit, and that would give you, that would kind of be like the best between both, because then, let me flip it around. So here you can see I've got just the regular grow ports. This one's a baby green extension kit on it. That's a lot of greens. So that might be the way to go if you're concerned about getting a lot of greens off your tower. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Adding a baby greens extension kit to all of them would make it a lot of greens. That would be awesome. At what time do you come online? I did 8 today. I don't really have a set schedule. I just started doing the lives, but if you guys have suggestions, let me know what's the best time. All right. Thanks for hopping on, guys. I am going to head inside and finish this juice. I haven't even had dinner yet. We went to the gym earlier. Thanks for all the questions. I love them. They're super helpful for me to know what to talk about in my other videos. And I love just interacting with people who are passionate about growing their own food, and especially this way of growing food, since that's how I'm growing it. And I appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful New Year. I'll see you guys next time.